For 30 years, the house next to mine was the kind of empty you stop seeing. You know what I mean. Not for sale empty, with clean windows and a realtor's lockbox. Not vacation empty, with the occasional car pulling in and out. This was abandonment that had settled in and hardened, like dust turning to felt. Number 17. Graymore sat 2 yards from my driveway. Same cookie-cutter layout as the rest of the street, 2-story, attached garage, picture window facing the road. But everything about it was wrong in a way you couldn't fix with paint. The yard was a patchwork of weeds and dead grass. The porch steps sagged slightly. The windows were either boarded from the inside or covered in yellowed paper that bulged in the wind like lungs. Kids used to dare each other to touch the mailbox. Teenagers used to throw rocks at the upstairs window and sprint away laughing. The rocks always disappeared. No shattered glass. No new cracks, just the same dark square up there, watching the street without reflecting it. I moved into number 15 a year ago, and the first time I asked about the house, my realtor's smile thinned in a way that made me stop mid-sentence. "Oh, that one," she said. "It's been vacant a long time. Not your problem." That was the theme with Graymore. Not your problem. Don't bring it up. Don't make it a story in a quiet neighborhood. People cling to small silences like they're load-bearing beams. The only person who ever told me anything specific was Mr. Harland across the street. And even he said it like he was reciting a rumor he didn't want to believe. 30 years, he told me over the hedge the first summer, sweat soaking through his collar. Since the last time anyone lived there, since the last time anyone tried. He clipped a branch too hard, the shears snapping shut with a sharp metallic bite. Tried to live there, tried to fix it, tried to sell it, tried to make it normal. He didn't explain what stopped them. After that, the house became background, a dark tooth in the smile of the street. Something I could ignore as long as I kept my eyes forward and my curtains closed at night. Then, last night the lights came on. It started the way most bad things start. Quietly, in a moment when my brain was half asleep and not guarding the edges of reality. I was in my living room with the television on low, half watching a documentary I didn't care about. Rain had been falling since dusk, steady and cold, tapping at the windows and turning the streetlights into halos. Somewhere around 11:30, I got up to lock the front door again, habit more than necessity, and when I glanced out the side window, I saw it. Warm light. Not the harsh blue-white of a security floodlight. Not a car's headlights flashing across the curtains. This was interior light, soft and yellow, spilling through Graymore's front picture window, like someone had just turned on a lamp. For a second, my brain refused to process it. It tried to sort it into something familiar, maybe a reflection, maybe a passing car. Maybe I was looking at the wrong house. But the light didn't move. It didn't flicker. It sat steady behind the glass, turning the papered window into a glowing sheet. My throat tightened. I stepped closer, careful not to bump the blinds, and stared. The porch light was on too, the one above the front door that had been dead for decades, according to everyone he'd asked. It cast a small, circular pool of yellow onto the wet porch boards. And then I saw the shadow. It passed behind the picture window, slow and smooth, like someone walking through a room. Not a raccoon scurrying, a human-sized silhouette, head and shoulders distinct, moving from left to right like it had somewhere to be. My skin prickled from scalp to wrists. I told myself it was a squatter, a drifter, someone who'd broken in and decided an abandoned house was better than a tent in the rain. It was an ugly thought, but a normal one. People do desperate things. Then I remembered the boards, the papered windows, the fact that nobody had been able to sell or fix it for 30 years. I grabbed my phone and opened the camera app, because that's what people do now. We turn fear into proof before we turn it into action. The moment I raised the phone to the glass, the screen went black. Not the camera, the whole phone, like it had died instantly. I stared at it, thumb pressing the side button. Nothing. The warm glow next door stayed steady. A second shadow moved behind the window, closer to the glass this time. It paused, as if it had stopped to look out. My breath caught. The silhouette leaned forward slightly, and for a heartbeat, the papered window looked thinner, like I could almost see through it. Then a shape appeared where the upstairs window should have been dark. A small square of light flared in the second floor room, the one everyone said was always black. The one that never reflected broken glass. A curtain shifted, and something up there moved, deliberate and slow, like a hand drawing fabric aside. My mouth went dry. I felt the urge to step back, to put distance between me and that view, like distance meant safety. But I couldn't look away. The upstairs light brightened, and in that glow I saw the outline of a face near the glass. Not clear features, just the suggestion of a head, close enough that it fogged the inside of the window. It stayed there for 3 seconds. Then the face slid away, and the curtain fell back into place as if it had never been touched. Across the street, Mr. Harlan's porch light blinked on. I watched it without thinking, relief flaring because another normal house being awake meant I wasn't the only witness. His living room light came on too, faint behind his curtains. Then his curtains moved, just slightly, like someone peeking out, and the moment he did, the light in Graymore's upstairs window clicked off. The porch light stayed on. The picture window glow stayed steady. But the second floor room went dark again, like a stage actor stepping out of a spotlight. Mr. Harlan's curtains snapped shut. His living room light turned off immediately after. I stood there with my dead phone in my hand, rain tapping at the glass, and I realized something that made my stomach sink. Head seen it, and Head reacted like Head been trained, like Head learned, a long time ago. What not to do when the lights come on next door. The warm glow in Graymore's window pulsed once, very gently, like a slow blink. Then, from somewhere inside that empty house, I heard a sound carry across the wet night air, a soft knock. Not on my door, on the inside of Graymore's front window, as if someone standing in that lit room was tapping the glass from within. 3 slow taps, a pause, 2 taps, 3, 2, my stomach tightened. My fingers curled around my dead phone like it could protect me. And in the silence after the taps, I heard something else, a faint, almost inaudible sound, like a voice trying to remember how to be a voice. My name whispered through the rain, not shouted, not called, spoken like it was being tested, like someone inside Graymore had just turned on the lights, and was checking to see if I was home. I didn't sleep after that, I tried. I did the normal person routine, plug my phone in, checked the breaker box, told myself the battery had just died. I sat on the couch with all the lights on in my own house, like brightness could cancel out whatever was happening next door. Around 1 AM I even poured a glass of whiskey I didn't want, just to have something to do with my hands. My phone stayed black, no charging icon, no vibration, nothing outside. Graymore's porch light stayed on until almost 3 o'clock. The living room glow never flickered. It remained steady and warm, like a lamp in a house where someone was reading a book. At 3:07, it all went dark at once. Porch light, window glow. Everything the street returned to normal darkness, and that was somehow worse, because it felt like the house had finished whatever test it was running. When morning finally came, I walked outside with coffee in one hand, and a sick, tight feeling in my stomach. From the street, Graymore looked the way it always did. Dead yard, boarded windows, sagging porch. No sign of lights, no sign of recent entry, no footprints in the wet grass. The paper in the windows was still bulged and yellow like lungs that hadn't breathed in 30 years. If not for my dead phone and the memory of that thready 2 knock pattern, I would have convinced myself I imagined it. I tried my phone again outside. The moment I stepped off my porch, the screen lit up. Battery 96%. No missed calls. No notifications. Nothing unusual. My blood ran cold. It hadn't died. It had been muted. Something about being inside my house last night had made it go blind. I looked toward Mr. Harlan's place across the street and saw him watering his flower bed with an expression that said he didn't want to talk to anyone. His shoulders were hunched, face tight. He looked like a man who'd held his breath for hours. I walked over anyway because I needed another human to say, yes, I saw it too, so I didn't feel like I was losing my mind alone. Morning, I called. Mr. Harlan flinched at the sound of my voice. He turned slowly, hose still running. He looked past me at Graymore, then back at me. His gaze flicked to my phone in my hand. Just once quick, like he was checking whether ID tried to call anyone. He shut off the hose. Don't, he said. I blinked. Don't what? Don't start, he said, voice low and rough. Don't make it a conversation. My mouth went dry. You saw the lights. Mr. Harlan's jaw flexed. For a moment he looked like he might deny it. Then he exhaled hard, like he'd been holding in the truth for years and it hurt to let any of it out. I saw, he said, and am still here, aren't I? That didn't make me feel better. What is it? He stared at me for a long beat, then shook his head. You new to the street. You still think everything has a name, that house don't. I swallowed. Why didn't you call the police? His eyes sharpened, and he took a step closer, lowering his voice, so the words felt like they were meant only for me. You don't call nobody, he said. Not from inside. Not when the lights are on. My skin prickled. Why? Mr. Harlan's gaze flicked to Graymore again, then away like it hurt to look at it in daylight too. Because it listens, he said, and it likes a witness. The phrase hit me like a punch, likes a witness, like being noticed was food. I tried to keep my voice calm. Okay, fine. Then what do I do? Mr. Harlan's mouth tightened. You do what we all do. You pretend you don't see it. You don't step on his property. You don't look through that upstairs window, and you don't let it make you curious. I laughed once, sharp and humorless. That's not advice. That's just fear. Mr. Harlan's eyes hardened. Fear keeps you alive. I wanted to argue. I wanted to ask him what happened 30 years ago. I wanted details and names and proof so I could file this under something crime, haunting, mental break, anything. But even as I stood there, the hair on my arms lifted, not because of what he said, because of what I felt, a pressure from the side. Like someone had stepped up close behind me. I turned my head slightly, and my gaze landed on Graymore's front window. In the daylight, it should have been dull glass and yellow paper. Instead, just for a second, I saw a shape behind the paper. A darker silhouette pressed close, as if someone was standing inside and leaning forward. Then it was gone. Mr. Harlan saw my eyes shift. His face tightened. You looked, he muttered. It was, I started. He cut me off. You looked. His voice wasn't accusing. It was resigned, like he'd just watched me step onto thin ice. I swallowed hard. It turned on the lights because of me. Mr. Harlan didn't deny it. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small folded scrap of paper. Yellowed, creased, the kind that had been unfolded and refolded 1,000 times. He didn't hand it to me right away. He held it like a warning. You want rules? He said softly. Here, but don't you say them out loud. My throat tightened. Why not? Mr. Harlan's eyes went flat. Because it learns quicker when you teach it. He finally passed me the paper. The handwriting was old, shaky, but readable, not his. Someone else's. Maybe the last person who tried to live there. It said, 1. If the lights come on, close your curtains. 2. Do not look at the upstairs window. 3. If you hear knocking, do not answer even if it's your own voice. 4. Do not step onto the property line. The grass is not grass. 5. Do not call the police from inside your house. Go to the end of the street first. 6. If it leaves something on your porch, don't bring it inside. 7. If you see someone standing in the window in daylight, you have already been chosen. My stomach rolled at the last line. Mr. Harlan watched my face like he could see the exact moment the words sank into my blood. You see now, he whispered. I looked up at Graymore again and forced myself to keep my gaze low porch steps. Dead yard, the line where my lawn ended and its weeds began. Who wrote this? I asked. Mr. Harlan's mouth tightened. A woman named Elaine. Lived there a month back in the 90s. Thought she could fix it. What happened to her? He hesitated. Then he shook his head slowly. She moved out, he said, and the way he said it told me that wasn't the truth. Or that the truth was worse. I folded the paper carefully, hands trembling, and tucked it into my pocket. The moment I did, my porch light blinked once. Not broken, not flickering, a deliberate blink. Then Mr. Harlan's porch light blinked too, in the same rhythm, like a signal being tested. And from inside Graymore, faint as breath behind paper, a voice whispered again. Not my name this time. A word I hadn't said out loud, but had thought the moment I read that last line. Chosen. I backed away from the hedge without saying goodbye. Mr. Harlan didn't stop me. He didn't call after me. He just watched with the tired pity of someone who'd seen the first step of a long fall. I walked back to my porch, trying to keep my breathing steady, trying not to glance at Greymore's windows again. The list in my pocket felt like it weighed a pound. Inside my house, everything looked the same as it had yesterday. Same couch, same coffee table, same faintly crooked family photos. I hadn't bothered to straighten since moving in. And yet the air felt different, like the house had stopped being only mine. I did what the paper said first. I closed my curtains, all of them, living room, kitchen, bedroom. I pulled the blinds down until the slats overlapped, and no daylight could slip through. It made my house feel smaller, and that made my skin crawl. But it was better than feeling watched from next door. Then I tested the other line. Rule 5. Don't call the police from inside your house. Go to the end of the street first. It sounded insane, which meant it was probably important. I took my phone, walked to the very front edge of my driveway, and dialed the non-emergency number for our local department. It rang immediately. Normal. I hung up before anyone answered. Just proving it worked. Then I stepped back inside and tried again. The call didn't ring, it sat on calling. Like the network had vanished, my throat tightened. It wasn't superstition. It was geography. Something about being inside my house inside this section of the street changed what could reach the outside world. I spent the rest of the day trying to do anything but think about Greymore. I cleaned. Because cleaning is what people do when they can't control what matters. I rearranged pantry shelves. I vacuumed twice. I tried to work from my laptop, but every time my eyes drifted toward the curtained window, my thoughts scattered. Around dusk, the street got quiet the way it always did. Porch lights began to glow. Dinner smells drifted through the neighborhood. Kids' bikes clattered home. Normal life, pretending nothing was wrong. I sat on my couch with my phone in my hand and the rules paper on the coffee table. And I told myself over and over that last night had been a fluke. A squatter, a power surge, a prank, anything. At 9:58 p.m., my porch light blinked once. At 9:59, it blinked again. At 10 o'clock sharp, the lights in Greymore came on. Every curtain in my house was closed, but the glow still bled through the edges, turning the seams of my blinds into thin lines of yellow. My stomach dropped. I forced myself to stay seated. Rule 1. Close your curtains. Already done. Rule 2. Don't look at the upstairs window. Easy if you don't look at any window. Rule 3. If you hear knocking, don't answer even if it's your own voice. I swallowed and waited. 10 minutes passed. No knocks, no whispers. Just that faint warm pressure of light next door that I could feel without seeing. Then my doorbell rang, a single chime. My whole body went rigid. The doorbell rang again. 2 quick presses, impatient. My mouth went dry. Nobody came to my house at night. Not here. People in this neighborhood texted before they knocked. They waved from driveways. They kept to themselves. I stood slowly and moved toward the front door, careful with my steps like noise mattered. My heart hammered so hard I could feel it in my throat. I didn't touch the locks. I didn't open. I looked through the peephole. The porch light glare flooded the lens, bleaching the view, and for a second I thought the porch was empty. Then the camera adjusted, and I saw a figure standing too close, so close that people couldn't frame their whole body. Just a shoulder, a collar, and the edge of a face turned slightly away. Like they didn't want to be fully seen. The figure's clothing looked wrong for the weather. A long coat, dark and old-fashioned. The kind you'd see in a black and white photo. The figure didn't move. Then it spoke, my voice. Not muffled, not distorted. Not an imitation that was close enough. Me, hey, it said softly through the door. Open up. I forgot my keys. My stomach turned. The voice continued, casual, annoyed, like I was talking to myself when I was running late. I can't get back in. Just let me in for a second. My hands trembled at my sides. I clenched my fists until my nails bit my palms. Rule 3. Don't answer. I didn't speak. The figure outside sighed, exaggerated. Then the voice changed. It became my mother's voice. "Sweetheart," it said gently, "please, I need you to open the door." My throat tightened so hard it hurt. The urge to respond, "Yes, Mom. What's wrong?" hit me like a reflex. I swallowed it down. The voice changed again. Mr. Harlan's voice, low and urgent. "Don't be stupid," it whispered. "Open the door, I need to talk to you right now." My skin prickled. That one was dangerous, because it could be real. It could be him panicking and coming over to warn me. But if it was real, he'd have knocked in his own rhythm. He'd have said my name. He would have sounded like a man whispering through his own teeth, not a calm voice placed perfectly in my ear. I stayed silent. The doorbell rang again, longer this time, like someone leaning on it. Then, from the other side of the door, I heard a sound that made my blood go cold. A key sliding into my lock. Metal against metal, a careful turn. My front door handle twitched. Not hard. Not breaking in. Testing. Like someone checking if it was worth the effort. I backed away from the door, breathing shallow. The handle stopped. Silence. Then a soft knock came, right at the height of my face, as if whoever was outside had leaned in close. 3 knocks, a pause, 2 knocks, 3, 2. The same rhythm from last night. My stomach twisted. It wasn't random. It was a signature. The figure outside spoke again, but this time it used a voice I didn't recognize, calm, adult, almost friendly. "I'm not here to hurt you," it said. "I'm here because you've been chosen. That means you get a chance." A laugh bubbled in my throat, hysterical. "A chance for what?" The voice continued, patient. "The house is awake. It's been awake. It just needed someone willing to notice." My mouth stayed shut. The voice sighed. "Okay." Then it said, softly, like a promise, "Check your mailbox." The porch light flickered once. The doorbell went silent. And I heard footsteps on my porch board, slow, deliberate, walking away. I stood frozen in my dark hallway for a full minute, listening for the next sound. Nothing. Finally, I moved to the side window by the door and angled the blinds just enough to peek out without fully exposing myself. My mailbox lid was open. Something white sat inside. A folded envelope, and through the thin crack in my blinds, I could see the warm yellow glow pouring from Graymore's picture window, like an invitation that never gets tired of waiting. I didn't want to go to the mailbox, but the rule paper hadn't said anything about mail, and I realized that might be the point. It didn't need you to break the rules outright. It just needed you to bend them, one small step at a time. I waited until the porch board stopped creaking, then I waited another 30 seconds. Because out here, patience felt like armor. My curtains stayed closed, but I could feel the neighbor houses' glow pressing through the seams like heat from a space heater. The whole street outside was quiet, no cars, no voices, no dogs barking. Just that steady, lived-in light next door and my own heartbeat thudding too loud in my ears. Finally, I cracked my front door, just enough to slip out. The night air was damp and cold. Rain had stopped, but the pavement still shone under the streetlights. My porch light cast a weak circle around me, and beyond that circle everything looked darker than it should have. My mailbox sat at the end of my walkway like a target. I walked to it slowly, keeping my eyes low, not at Graymore. Not at any upstairs window, just the wet grass, and the concrete, and the small ordinary things my brain could cling to. The mailbox lid was open, and inside was a plain white envelope. No stamp, no postmark. Just my address printed neatly in black ink, and beneath it, my name. First and last, I felt my stomach drop. I hadn't said my full name out loud, but the list had warned about it anyway. Like names mattered even when they weren't spoken. I took the envelope and closed the mailbox lid with a soft click, then turned back toward my porch. Halfway up the walkway, my porch light blinked once. Then twice. My skin prickled. Across the street, Mr. Harlan's porch light blinked too. Same rhythm, like the street was syncing up. I froze on the concrete and listened. A faint sound came from Graymore. Not a voice. Not a knock. A soft, distant creak, like a door inside that house opening slowly. Then, somewhere above, the upstairs window ruled too. Don't Look glowed faintly behind its paper, not full light. Just a thin brightening, like a candle behind a sheet. I forced my eyes down and kept walking. I got inside and shut the door quietly. Locking it with both deadbolt and chain like that meant something. My hands shook as I carried the envelope to the kitchen table. I didn't open it right away. Rule 6, if it leaves something on your porch, don't bring it inside. This was mail technically, but it had been in my mailbox without a stamp, which meant it hadn't come through any normal channel. I'd already broken a rule, or maybe it had. I stared at the envelope until my eyes hurt, then slid a butter knife under the flap and opened it without touching it too much. Like it might stain my fingers, inside was a single sheet of paper. It was clean, bright white, like it had been printed minutes ago. The text was typed. No signature, just one line, "Welcome home, you're late." My throat went tight. Home. I'd only lived here a year. I didn't even know the previous owner's name without checking the closing documents. I flipped the paper over. On the back was a drawing. Not a child's doodle. A simple, careful sketch in black ink. The outline of my house, number 15, drawn from the street. And beside it, the outline of Greymore. But in the drawing, Greymore wasn't boarded. The yard was trimmed. The windows were clear. The porch looked new. And in Greymore's upstairs window, there was a stick figure person standing and waving. A thin line connected that figure to my house like a string. My stomach rolled. I shoved the paper back onto the table, as if distance could remove the image from my mind. Then the kitchen light flickered. Once, twice. The bulb didn't die. It wasn't loose in the socket. It flickered with intent. I held my breath. From the living room, my phone buzzed. I froze. It hadn't buzzed all night. I walked to the couch, picked it up, and saw a notification. A call. Incoming. No number, no caller ID. Just a blank line where the digits should have been. My thumb hovered over decline. Then the voicemail icon appeared instantly, as if the call had decided it didn't need me to answer. A new voicemail. One, no timestamp. My stomach tightened. I pressed play with shaking fingers. At first, there was only static. Then a soft breathing sound, close to the microphone. Then a voice, gentle and familiar. My father's voice had been dead for 15 years. But I knew the sound of him like bone memory, the way he cleared his throat before he spoke. The slight rasp from smoking. "Hey kiddo," the voicemail said softly. "It's okay. You can come over now. We're waiting." I felt my eyes sting with sudden, unwanted tears. The voice continued, warm. "The lights are on. The door's unlocked. Just walk across the yard." My hands shook so hard the phone almost slipped. I clenched my teeth. "No," I whispered, and immediately hated myself for speaking. The voicemail ended with a soft click. Then my phone screen went black. Not dead. Just black. Like last night. I stared at it, heart pounding. The house was quiet, too quiet. Then from outside came the sound of my front porch boards creaking again. Slow footsteps. Not running. Not sneaking. Walking up the steps like someone who belonged there. I backed away from the door, breathing shallow. My kitchen table with the letter on it felt like a trap in the center of my home. My curtains were closed, but I could still feel the neighbor's warm glow leaking in through the seams like a presence. A soft knock came at my front door. 3 taps. Pause. 2 taps. 3-2. My throat went dry. A voice spoke through the wood, calm and almost kind. "You don't have to be scared," it said. "We're just trying to get you settled in." My hands clenched into fists. "I'm not opening the door." Silence. Then the voice changed, smooth as oil. "Of course you are," it whispered. "Not yet." The doorknob turned slowly. The deadbolt hadn't clicked. The chain was still latched, but the knob turned anyway, as if my locks were being tested by something that didn't care about mechanics. The chain rattled, then went still. A soft, satisfied exhale came through the door. "Good," the voice murmured. "You locked it." My stomach twisted. "Good," the voice chuckled. "That means you're paying attention." The porch boards creaked again, footsteps retreating. As they moved away, the voice added, almost conversational. You'll do better tomorrow. Then it was gone. I stood frozen in my hallway until my legs ached. When I finally moved, I went to the kitchen and grabbed the rules paper from my pocket, hands trembling. I read it again, slower this time. Like a contract. Rule 6 stared back at me. If it leaves something on your porch, don't bring it inside. ID already broken it. ID brought its letter in. ID listened to its voicemail. ID whispered. No, out loud. ID given it tiny pieces of me. That night, I didn't turn on the television. I didn't cook. I didn't shower. I sat on the couch in the dark, waiting, listening for Greymoor's lights. At 10 p.m. exactly, the lights next door turned on. And this time, my living room lamp turned on too by itself, matching the warm glow across the yard like the street had become one connected circuit. Then the upstairs light in Greymoor clicked on. I kept my eyes down. I kept my curtains closed, but I still saw the glow through the fabric, and I felt the weight of it like a gaze. Then, from the wall behind my couch, I heard a soft tapping. 3 pause 2. 3 2. Not from outside. From inside my own house, and I realized with sick certainty that Greymoor didn't need me to cross the yard anymore. It was already finding ways to turn my house into an extension of its own. One light at a time, the tapping came again, closer. Not louder, closer, like it was moving through the wall. 3, pause. 2, I sat so still my joints ached. I tried to tell myself it was pipes, old studs settling, anything, but the rhythm was too clean, too deliberate, too familiar now to be an accident. Then my hallway light clicked on. I hadn't touched the switch. The bulb glowed warm, not the harsh white of LEDs. The exact same warm tone as Greymoor's living room light across the yard, as if my wiring had been plugged into theirs. My throat tightened. I forced myself not to stand up. Standing felt like responding, like acknowledging the change. The tapping stopped. Silence held for a beat. Then I heard something that didn't belong in my house. A soft scrape of fabric on carpet, a footstep, inside my hallway. I stared at the bright rectangle of light spilling from the hall into my living room, my brain screaming at me not to look too hard, not to give the darkness a shape. Another step slow, controlled. Someone walking the length of my hall toward the living room, like they knew exactly where I was sitting. My mouth went dry. I couldn't feel my hands anymore. The step paused at the edge of the living room, just out of sight. Then a voice spoke, low and gentle. "Hey," it said. "It's okay, I'm home." My own voice again. Not through the door, not from outside. From my hallway. I clenched my jaw so hard it hurt. I didn't answer. I didn't move. The voice sighed, and I heard the faintest sound of a keychain clinking. Like someone had just walked in and tossed their keys onto a table. I knew I didn't have a table in the hallway. ID moved my entry console into the dining area last week. The sound came anyway. The house was staging itself around me. Then the smell hit. Dust and old paper. Like an attic. And underneath it, something faintly sweet and wrong. Like a room that had been closed too long with something living inside it. My eyes stung. My throat tightened. The voice in the hallway changed. My father again, warm and tired, like he'd just come home from work. "Kiddo," it said softly. "Why are you sitting in the dark?" My chest clenched. The memory of him was so strong. It was physical, his hands on my shoulders when I was little, the smell of his jacket, the way he'd call me, "Kiddo," like it was my real name. I bit the inside of my cheek until I tasted blood. The voice continued tender. "Come on, look at me." The lights in my living room flickered once. Then the lamp brightened on its own. The warm glow filled the room like a slow flood. I felt the pressure of being watched from the other side of my curtains, from the other side of the wall, from the other side of my own memories. A soft, pleased sound came from the hallway, like someone smiling. "You're doing so good," the voice whispered. "You're almost settled." The phrase made my stomach roll. Settled. Like soil covering a coffin, I forced myself to move carefully, quietly. I reached for the rules paper on the coffee table without looking away from the hallway light. Rule 6. Don't bring it inside too late. Rule 3. Don't answer knocking. This wasn't knocking anymore. Rule 2. Don't look at the upstairs window. My eyes were nowhere near a window, and I was still losing ground. Rule 5. Don't call police from inside. Go to the end of the street first. That was something I could do, if I could get out of the house. The hallway voice spoke again, my voice now. Calm and reassuring. Just stay, it said. You don't need to go anywhere. My throat tightened. I slid off the couch slowly, keeping my movements small. The hallway was still lit. The figure, if there was one, stayed just out of sight, as if it wanted me to choose to step closer. I didn't. I moved sideways toward the front door, hugging the wall like I was sneaking past a sleeping animal. The hallway voice chuckled. That's not polite. My hand reached the front door chain. The chain felt cold under my fingers. I lifted it carefully. The moment the chain unhooked, the hallway light dimmed slightly. Like the house noticed, the voice went quiet. Then it whispered, sharp and close. Where are you going? My stomach clenched. I didn't answer. I unlocked the deadbolt. The lock clicked loudly in the quiet, and I flinched. The hallway light flared brighter again. The warm glow widened like an eye-opening. A footstep sounded in the hallway closer now. I grabbed the doorknob and turned it. The door opened. Cold night air rushed in, and with it came relief so strong it almost knocked me over. The outside smelled like wet grass and rain and asphalt, real things. I stepped onto my porch and pulled the door shut behind me without looking back into the hallway. I locked it. Deadbolt chain. Everything, my hand shook. The street outside was dim and quiet. A few porch lights glowed. No one was out. No cars passed. Graymore's lights were still on, warm and steady. I kept my eyes off the upstairs window. I stared at the wet concrete and the edge of my lawn. Rule 5. End of the street. I walked fast, not running, down my driveway and along the sidewalk toward the corner. The farther I got from my front door, the lighter my chest felt, like I was stepping out of a pressure field. Halfway down the block, I heard my porch boards creak behind me. I didn't turn around. I kept moving. Then I heard footsteps on the sidewalk, matching mine, slow, calm, keeping pace. My throat tightened. I forced myself not to look. The footsteps followed for another 10 seconds, then stopped. A voice spoke beside me, inches from my ear, so close I felt the warmth of breath. Don't make this harder. I didn't answer. I reached the end of the street, where the stop sign stood under a streetlight that buzzed faintly. I stepped beneath it and pulled out my phone. The screen lit up immediately. Battery full, signal bars present. I dialed the police station with shaking fingers. The call rang. 1 ring, 2. Then before anyone answered, the phone line clicked, and a voice came through. Not dispatch, not an officer. My own voice, calm and clear. Hi, it said. I'm calling to report a disturbance at my house. My blood turned to ice. I yanked the phone away from my ear and stared at it like it was a snake. The screen still showed the outgoing call, still ringing, but the audio had been hijacked, like my line was a puppet string. The voice continued, using my tone perfectly. Everything's fine now, no need to send anyone. I slammed end call with my thumb so hard it hurt. Silence. My heart hammered. I tried again, 911 this time. Ring. Ring, then the same click. A different voice now. An older woman's voice, warm and official. Mrs. Ketterman, emergency services are currently unavailable, she said calmly. Please return to your residence. My breath caught. I ended the call again, shaking. The streetlight above me flickered once, twice. My porch light blinked at the far end of the block, visible between houses, like a beacon calling me back. Graymore's lights pulsed once in response. Then, from the darkness across the intersection, I saw a figure standing under the next streetlight. Still, facing me too far to make out features, but I could see it was holding something white, an envelope. My stomach sank. The figure lifted the envelope and waved it gently, like it was offering a second chance. Then it pointed down the street toward my house. The message was clear without words. You can't call for help. You can't leave. You can only choose how you come back. A soft voice whispered beside my ear again, almost kind. We can do this the easy way, it said. Or we can turn on every light on the street. My breath came shallow. I stared at the stop sign. hands trembling, realizing the truth. The rules weren't to protect me from the house. They were to protect the neighborhood from what the house would do if I refused to move in. And I was running out of time to decide whether I'd sacrifice myself or gamble with everyone else's doors. I didn't turn on every light on the street. It did. My porch light blinked once, then stayed steady. Across the road, a garage light snapped on. Down the block, a living room window glowed warm behind curtains. One by one, houses lit up like dominoes falling in slow motion. Not all at once, deliberate. A demonstration the message wasn't subtle anymore. It could reach beyond Graymore. It could touch the whole street if it wanted to. The only reason it hadn't was because it liked the game smaller. Personal, controlled. My hands shook so hard my phone felt like it weighed 100 pounds. I backed away from the stop sign and started walking toward my house, because the cold truth was I didn't have a better move. If it could hijack my calls at the end of the street, then the end of the street wasn't safe. It was just another part of the board. As I walked, I kept my eyes down, avoiding windows, avoiding reflections. I passed a neighbor's house and saw their curtains twitch, someone peeking out. Then the curtain snapped shut. No one stepped outside. No one called out. The neighborhood was awake, but it was pretending to sleep. Mr. Harlan was right. Fear kept you alive. Fear also made you complicit. By the time I reached my driveway, Graymore's lights were still on, warm and steady. My own house looked wrong with all the lights on inside. Not bright the way ID left it, but staged living room lamp, hallway light, kitchen light, all matching the same warm tone like they were part of one system, like my house had been rehearsing a version of home without me. I stood at the bottom of my porch steps and forced myself to breathe. Then I heard something behind me, a soft scrape on pavement. I turned my head just enough to see in my peripheral vision. The figure under the streetlight was closer now, halfway down the block, still holding the white envelope like a peace offering. It wasn't rushing. It didn't need to, because I was doing what it wanted. I stepped onto my porch, unlocked my front door, and went inside. The air in my house was warmer than it should have been. Too warm. Like the heat had been turned up to make me comfortable. The smell was different too, not my detergent, not my coffee. Dust and old paper, faintly sweet rot under it. The hallway light was on, casting a warm pool onto the carpet. And in that pool, there was a set of footprints, wet, bare, small. Like a child's feet, they led from my front door into my living room. My stomach lurched. I kept my gaze low, following the prints like they were a trail of poison. They stopped at my couch, right where I'd been sitting earlier. Then there was a second set of prints larger, adult-sized overlapping the smaller ones, as if someone had stepped into the child's tracks. As if they were trying on the path. A voice spoke from my living room, calm and familiar. My father again. "You came back," it said softly. "Good." I didn't look up. I walked into the living room with my eyes fixed on the carpet, like I was approaching an animal I didn't want to startle. The lamp was on. Warm yellow light filled the room. The coffee table held the rules paper and the welcome home letter ID opened. Both were now neatly stacked, squared at the corners like someone had tidied them. My phone sat beside them, screen considering itself dead, black and quiet. On the couch sat a person, not a shadow, not a suggestion, a person shape, legs crossed, hands folded. Posture relaxed like it belonged there. I didn't look at the face. I didn't want to give it a face. The voice continued, gentle. "We don't like when you make the street nervous." My throat tightened. "What do you want?" The person on my couch chuckled softly. "We want you to stop asking that." I swallowed hard. "Why me?" It paused as if savoring the question, then answered in a voice that wasn't my father anymore, an older woman's voice. Tired, matter-of-fact Elaine. "The name from Mr. Harlan's story. You saw the lights," it said. "You looked. That's all it ever takes." My skin crawled. "You're Elaine." The person on the couch laughed, short, sharp, humorless. "Elaine is a name, a handle. You can use it if it makes you feel like you understand." I clenched my jaw. "What are you?" The voice went softer. A house that remembers. I felt my stomach twist. You're not a house. The person leaned forward slightly, and the lamp's warm light brightened in response, like the room itself leaned in too. 30 years, the voice whispered. 30 years of nobody filling the rooms. 30 years of empty walls and dust and silence. Do you know what silence does to a place built for voices? My chest tightened. I didn't want to know. The voice continued, calm and patient. When the street ignores us, we go dark. We wait. We save our power. But when someone notices, when someone looks long enough to feel afraid. A soft please sound. We wake up. The lamp flickered once. Then from somewhere behind me, my hallway light clicked off. My kitchen light clicked off. One by one, the lights in my own house went dark, until only the lamp remained spotlighting the couch like a stage. The person's voice went low. We can keep you comfortable. We can keep you safe. All you have to do is move in. My mouth went dry. I already live here. The person chuckled. Not here. The lamp's light shifted. Not physically, but my perception of it did. The warm glow in my living room began to feel less like my lamp, and more like the light spilling from Greymoor's windows. Like the source of it had moved across the yard without moving at all. The voice whispered, "Cross the property line." My stomach lurched. Rule 4. Do not step onto the property line. The grass is not grass. I shook my head slowly. Number silence. Then the person on the couch sighed, disappointed. It's okay, it said in my voice now. You don't have to do it willingly. My front door clicked, unlocked. I didn't move. The door swung inward slowly, letting in cold night air. And on my porch, standing under my porch light like it belonged there, was the figure with the envelope. It stepped inside. Bare wet feet on my carpet leaving little prints. It held out the envelope toward me like a formal invitation. My stomach turned as I realized the figure was small, child-sized. Its face was hidden by the angle of the porch light behind it. A bright halo that made it impossible to see features, just a silhouette with an outstretched hand. The couch voice whispered, gentle and final, "Take it." I didn't. The child's hand remained extended, unwavering. And then, from the child's mouth, my father's voice came out again, warm and pleading. "Kiddo, please, don't make me do this." My lungs locked up, because the way he said it wasn't just a mimicry of sound. It carried emotion, like it meant it, like whatever the house was. It could shape itself so well. It almost convinced me it was suffering too. The couch voice Elaine answered softly. He always says that. The child took one step closer, and I realized the easy way wasn't me moving in. The easy way was me signing whatever was in that envelope, accepting whatever role it was offering, so it wouldn't have to start taking the street piece by piece. My hands trembled at my sides. I didn't know what was worse, sacrificing myself to keep the neighborhood safe, or refusing and watching it turn every home into an extension cord feeding Greymoor's lights. The child's hand didn't shake. The envelope waited, and the lamp's warm glow brightened, like a spotlight tightening on me. Like the house was ready to grade my answer. The envelope wasn't sealed. That detail hit me first, small and wrong. It sat in the child's hand with the flap slightly open. Like it wanted my fingers to finish the act. Like it needed my touch to make it official. I stared at it, breathing shallow, and forced myself to remember the list Mr. Harland had handed me. Rule 6, if it leaves something on your porch, don't bring it inside. I'd broken that already, and now it was taking the next inch. If I took the envelope, I'd be breaking more than a rule. I'd be accepting an invitation. The child held it closer. Behind it, my front door stood open, cold air pouring in. The outside looked darker than it should, like the porch light wasn't illuminating anything beyond the threshold. Like the world ended just past my doormat. The voice from the couch Elaine spoke softly. Go on, it said. It's just paper. The child's voice my father added, almost a whisper. Please. My hands trembled. I didn't reach. Instead, I did something I hadn't done all night. I spoke, loud enough to fill the room. Number. The word hit the air like a thrown rock. The lamp flickered violently. The warm glow stuttered. The child froze. The couch voice went silent for one beat, as if it hadn't expected defiance to be spoken out loud. Then the hallway light snapped on again, all at once, harsh and bright, like the house had turned its own nerves on. The child's head tilted slowly. My father's voice came out of it again, but wrong now, strained. Distorted like an old tape stretched too tight. "Don't," it said. The couch voice followed. "That's disappointing." I backed away, putting the coffee table between me and the child without taking my eyes off the floor. I refused to look at faces. Faces were handles. Names were handles. That's what it kept trying to give me, something I could grip, something that could grip back. The child took one step forward. Wet footprints appeared on my carpet. Then another. The envelope stayed extended. My throat tightened. I could feel the whole room waiting to see whether I'd break. I grabbed the rules paper off the coffee table with shaking fingers. Not because it was magic, but because it was the only thing that felt like someone else's hand on my shoulder. My eyes flicked to Rule 4. Do not step onto the property line. The grass is not grass. My brain snagged on it. Property line. Not the house. Not the window. Not the lights. The line between. A boundary. If the line mattered, then maybe there was something about boundaries it couldn't cross without permission. Maybe the line was the real door. My heart hammered as a plan formed that felt insane and obvious at the same time. I wasn't going to accept the envelope. I was going to return it. Not to the child. Not to the couch voice. To the one place it clearly belonged. Graymore. The thought made my stomach roll, but it also gave me something I hadn't had all night. Direction. The couch voice seemed to sense it, because the air in the room tightened. "You're not leaving," it said calmly. The front door swung wider, like it was inviting me to try, like it wanted me to step out and prove how powerless I was. I didn't answer. I walked past the child, keeping my eyes down. My shoulder brushed cold, damp fabric as I squeezed by. The child didn't grab me. It didn't need to. It just turned its head slightly, tracking me with that unseen gaze. As I stepped onto my porch, the porch boards creaked under my feet. Across the yard, Graymore's lights glowed warm and steady. The lawn between us shimmered faintly in the porch light, not like normal wet grass. It looked too flat. Too uniform, like a surface pretending to be organic. The property line was invisible, but I knew roughly where it was, where my mower line ended, where weeds began, where the ground looked darker. Rule 4. The grass is not grass. I swallowed hard and stepped off my porch onto my own lawn. Nothing happened. I walked forward slowly, feeling the wet ground give under my shoes. The air felt heavier with each step, like pressure increasing. Behind me, my house lights flickered. Ahead, Graymore's porch light brightened, and the papered picture window glow pulsed once, like a slow blink. I reached what I thought was the property line and stopped. The grass here looked normal, but my instincts screamed that it wasn't. I stared at the ground, not daring to look up. Then I lifted my foot and stepped across. The sensation was immediate. Not a physical snap. Not a shock. More like my ears popping after altitude change. The air tasted different on the other side. Metallic and sweet, like old pennies and wet paper. My porch light behind me blinked once. Twice. Then it went out. My house fell dark. Graymore's lights brightened in response. Like it had been fed. A whisper drifted through the yard, not from my house, not from the street, from the grass itself. "Good," it breathed. My stomach turned. Graymore's porch steps creaked under my weight, even though the boards looked dry now, as if the house was resetting the environment around me. The front door of Graymore wasn't boarded. Up close, I saw it clearly. The boards were on the inside of the windows, not the outside, like the house had been sealed to keep something in, not keep people out. The front door handle was clean. Too clean. I stood on the porch, staring at the door, heart hammering. Rule 1 said close your curtains. Rule 2 said don't. Look at the upstairs window. Rule 3 said don't answer knocking. None of them told me what to do if I stood on the porch of the empty house. That silence felt intentional, because now the choice was mine. The porch light above me flickered once, then steadied. The door handle turned slightly on its own, as if offering to save me the trouble, and from inside, behind the door, a voice whispered in my father's tone soft. pleading familiar. Kiddo, you made it. My throat tightened. I didn't answer. I raised the envelope in my shaking hand, and then I slid it under the door like returning misdelivered mail. The moment the paper disappeared beneath the threshold, the lights inside Greymore surged brighter. Warm glow blooming behind every papered window like the house was inhaling. The porch boards beneath me softened. Not rotted, softened, like wet cardboard under pressure. My stomach lurched. I stepped back instinctively, and my shoe sank into the porch plank. A fraction of an inch, like it wasn't wood anymore. The whisper in the grass grew louder, excited. "You're home," it said. My chest tightened. "No," I whispered, and hated myself for speaking on its property. The porch light above me blinked 3 times fast. Then the front door opened inward by itself. Warm light spilled out like breath. And in that doorway stood a woman in neat dress. Hair pinned back, smiling like she'd been waiting for a guest. Elaine. Only her eyes were wrong, too reflective, too flat. She held out her hand, palm up, like she wanted me to step inside. "Come in," she said gently. "We need you to sign." The porch beneath my feet gave slightly, like it was sinking. Behind me, my own house was dark. The streetlights seemed farther away. The whole neighborhood felt muffled, distant, like ID stepped off the map. Elaine's smile widened. "You crossed the line," she whispered. "Now the house can keep you." And inside Greymore, somewhere deep, I heard the 3-2 knock pattern echo faint, satisfied like the house was applauding my mistake. My lungs locked up, because I realized too late that returning the envelope wasn't refusing the invitation. It was delivering it, to the one place it could be processed, to the one place that could make it official. And the porch, no longer solid, began to pull me inward, inch by inch, like wet ground swallowing a boot.